From Claude Makelele to Fernandhino, no other role has been transformed quite as much as the central defensive midfielder. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a deeper look at how it became one of the most important positions on the pitch. Before looking at how the position has changed over the years, let's first define the role of the CDM. The CDM, or central defensive midfielder, is a midfielder whose main focus is to protect the back four and stop the opposition from entering the final third. Off the ball, he's expected to have great positional awareness, anticipation of the opponent's play, great marking and great tackling. And on the ball must have great passing range and be comfortable under pressure, as this position is often the first line of the opposition press. He is crucial both at regaining possession and starting the team's attack, as he is often the first to receive the ball during build-up. Playing a defensive-minded midfielder is by no means an innovative tactic, and the first true use of a deep-lying midfielder can be dated back as early as the 1930s, with the Italian manager Pozzo using Luisito Monti in a deep central position, covering the opposition centre-forward, before moving up the pitch when needed in possession. Now, over the past few decades, different types of CDM have started to emerge, depending on how the team wishes to play. And in this position, two defining roles have emerged: the holding midfielder and the deep-lying playmaker. The holding midfielder is what you typically expect to find in this position: a great defensive player, able to stop the opposition in their tracks and help with the team's build-up. His positioning would be rather static in nature, often shifting from side to side or into the back line, but rarely venturing further up the pitch to support the attack. The holding mid is common in the 4-3-3, as he allows the other two midfielders to attack the space further up the pitch, or even in formations such as the 4-4-2 diamond, where he'd be used as the lowest player in the midfield four. It was a position that was epitomised by Chelsea's Claude Makelele, who was vital for the Blues during their first Premier League success. But not just essential during their defensive game, Makelele was also the first key player during Chelsea's build-up, as his positioning would be very difficult to defend against. In fact, against the 4-4-2, if the midfielder closed him down, then one of the other two midfielders, either Lampard or Essien, would be free. Or if the wingers added numbers in the middle, then there would be space down the wings for them to exploit. One famous match that outwitted Mourinho came in March 2006, when Fulham were able to beat Chelsea 1-0. Thanks to the manager Chris Coleman's intense pressure, he ordered his players to put on Makelele, making it difficult for Chelsea to start any substantial attacks. More recently, an excellent example of a great holding midfielder was N'Golo Kante at Leicester, and his first two seasons at Chelsea under Antonio Conte. That was before Sarri, Lampard and Tuchel all chose to use Kante further up the pitch. We'll explain why this could be the case later on in the video. The second type of CDM is the deep-lying playmaker. While not as important during the defensive side of the game, the deep-lying playmaker is vital for the team going forward, and will be the first player the team will attempt to get on the ball. To excel in this role, he must have an excellent passing range, often providing long arching balls to the wingers, playing the striker in behind or switching play to the other flank to expose gaps in the opposition's defence. So many players have made history from this position, but few have been better than Andrea Pirlo. His composure and passing range made him one of the most dangerous players on the pitch, able to quickly put the opposition on the back foot. Compared to the holding mid, the deep-lying playmaker will often venture further up the pitch to support the attack, and is usually paired up with a more defensive midfielder to help provide cover. And as a result, the deep-lying playmaker is more common in formations such as the 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 or 3-4-3 formations. In recent years, there have been some excellent partnerships in this position, ranging from Fabregas and Matic at Chelsea, Kimmich and Goretzka at Bayern Munich, or Casemiro and Kroos at Real Madrid. This season, Paul Pogba has been a great threat for Man United in the deep-lying playmaker position, and United's ability to have Pogba and Fernandes has ensured that they can create goal-scoring opportunities from anywhere on the pitch. So while the holding midfielder can operate as an individual role alongside two more aggressive midfielders, the deep-lying playmaker does require a more defensive partner to help provide cover, allowing him to venture further up the pitch. But recently, a different type of CDM has started to emerge, the so-called pivot. To understand the pivot, it's important to understand the changing dynamics of the game. While players like Makelele, Vieira and Keane excelled in this position, football in the late 90s, early 2000s was a lot less reliant on structured build-up from the back line, and Route 1 football was a lot more common, with the team aiming to get the ball into the strikers as quickly as possible. And the compact 4-4-2 shape made it difficult for teams to play through the midfield. But in the modern game, the best teams in the world will attempt to build up from the back line, and is one of the main reasons as to why ball-playing goalkeepers like Ederson and Ter Stegen, along with technically gifted centre-backs such as Van Dijk and Upamecano, are all crucial for their teams. And it's here that the CDM has become just as important for these teams. For build-up to be effective, the first thing that needs to happen is the team in possession need to overcome the first line of offensive pressure. And an excellent way of making this happen is for the CDM to drop deep and help outnumber the opposition. By coming deep into the defensive line, he can help create more passing options and triangles that help the team gain ground. And it's a position that is very tricky to defend against, given that if he's pressed, it could potentially leave gaps further up the pitch. An excellent example of this is Man City's Fernandhino. When building up, nearly all play will at some point go through Fernandhino. And while not all his passes are vertical, he's been excellent at keeping possession and helping the team move the ball out of tight spaces, while simultaneously freeing up space for the more advanced Gundogan and De Bruyne to create chances for the forwards. It's here that this position gets the name of pivot, as he has become the central player around which everything rotates. A similar example is Chelsea's Jorginho. While he may not be everyone's favourite player, a lot of his work goes unnoticed, and is also involved in the majority of Chelsea's build-up. While 5-yard passes and moving the ball sideways may not be the most exciting tactic to watch, they're an excellent way of slowly disrupting a midfield block, allowing for more advanced midfielders to gain ground, or by freeing up space for the fullbacks to move into. From defender to playmaker, the role of the CDM is constantly shifting. And in the past few seasons, the role has transitioned from defensive-minded players into better ball players and excellent passers. But the use of defensive midfielders is still very common. And in the final part of this video, I want to focus on the case of N'Golo Kante. Under Ranieri at Leicester and Conte at Chelsea, Kante excelled as a holding mid, venting any attacking threat and helping the team regain possession. But since the arrival of Maurizio Sarri, Kante has seen his positioning changed into a more advanced midfielder. Now, this may seem counterintuitive to have your best defensive midfielder play in a more aggressive position. However, when examining the bigger picture of how the game is played, there is a case to be made as to why it could be a good change. With teams building up from the back, it has led to teams attempting to stop this from happening, and will close down the opposition as quickly as possible, meaning more and more teams are adopting a high press. With Chelsea under Antonio Conte, Kante would primarily operate in this area, and when attempting to win the ball back for the team, allowing the more advanced midfielders to put up the first line of defence. But more recently, when out of possession, Kante has been operating more and more in this area of the pitch. The main idea behind why Sarri, Lampard and Tuchel all fielded Kante further up is for the simple reason that he can help the team win the ball back early. If positioned correctly, having Kante in this area would make it even harder for the opposition to move up, and potentially would allow Chelsea to immediately play the forwards in behind, as winning possession here would certainly create a numerical advantage. Now, I'm not here to agree on the fact that Kante playing further up the pitch is a good or bad decision, as cases can be made for both sides. He was arguably one of the best CDMs in the world, but we've also seen how lethal and effective he can be in a more aggressive position. One thing is certain is Kante is one of the best midfielders in the world, but that's the topic for a future video. For now though, let me know what you think of the CDM. Is it one of the most important positions on the pitch, or are there other positions that are more important to the team? Let me know what you think, along with any suggestions for future videos in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.